Let's get going. This is Two Homers and a Realist. We are in the midst of the post-game celebration, having defeated the mighty Cyclone. They're Cyclone or Cyclones?
Cyclones.
Who cares?
Yeah.
We beat them. Of Iowa State. And
it's real pretty.
I think it was very pretty. I'm Steve.
Lucas.
Jay.
Connor.
Randy.
So we got some special guests here. We got Dr. R's in the house. And it is a beautiful night after a beautiful day. The last OU home game of the season.
Undefeated.
Senior day.
Undefeated
at home.
Yep.
Believe it or not.
I'll take that anytime.
Believe it or not.
There was a lot of stress to keep that record
would
the whole
take
season.
Anybody that raise your hand if you would not take undefeated at home. No takers.
No hands.
I agree. It was pretty good.
That was one of the most stressful home seasons I can remember.
Can you imagine a more stressful season in our history, or come up with one in which we actually didn't lose a game? Because there could be some seasons where you said, well, 3 of those games were blowouts and 3 of them were bad and we lost 1 or 2.
Right.
But there were no losses.
Yeah, just
But
a
it didn't
whole bunch
feel
of
that
close
way.
We
ones.
play well at home.
We did play pretty well. We had, two blowouts, we might say. 1 blowout for sure against Western Carolina. And Texas Tech was obviously pretty close to it.
Yeah.
But let's focus on the game today, and let's talk about how we feel. We had the rebound game. Obviously, we're still in the title hunt for the Big 12, and I would say that we're in good position to compete if things fall our way to get into the playoff. We can talk about what that might look like, but before that, talking about how we feel about this and how we feel about the game. Are we optimistic, pessimistic, how we feel? Lucas, let's start with you.
I'm on par with where I've been the last couple games. Well, I felt really good after the Texas Tech game, but
Yeah, I would say that's not possible, right?
we beat Iowa State. I still don't feel great about the offense. The defense surprised me today. We looked pretty good. Offense is still struggling. I mean, we win this game by 7 with a defensive touchdown. It just seems like we can't move the ball when we need to. I don't know how many times we punted today. However many times it was too many.
5, maybe?
Yeah.
It was a bunch.
Missed another field goal. Not good. 21-yarder. I mean, I've seen Chick-fil-A people make that field goal before. So it's I'm pessimistic on the offense, optimistic on the defense.
Jay, how you feeling?
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. It's just so inconsistent on offense, and Caleb's kind of running into that freshman wall. Seems to be digressing some. Optimistic about the defense. I mean, they came out firing on all cylinders. It's 2 weeks in a row that they've kept us in the game to win. We just happen to get enough offensive production today to squeak it out. It's interesting because we're not used to winning this way, so we kind of have to adjust. I don't know, maybe how things are going to go in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
Connor, you're optimistic?
Yeah, optimistic defensively for sure. From an offensive perspective, just looks stuck. I mean, we look like we're stuck. There's not a lot of production there. Caleb Williams had 8 completions today, which is crazy. So, I don't know. We'll see how it works out next week. I'm not going to think about it too much because it scares the hell out of me. That defense that we're going to go up against is pretty stout. So,
Okay. Well, we'll talk about that in a bit.
yeah. No,
Randy, how you feeling?
We're good.
I agree with the optimism for the defense. They had spurts of greatness, and then towards the end, the secondary looked like they were just kind of breaking down a little bit. Leaving Kohler wide open.
The one guy you need to cover in that circumstance.
Exactly. And leaving him open is that's a sin in my book. And, offensively, they just, I don't know, they didn't have a consistent game plan or something. I don't know. They just couldn't put it all together.
Yeah, I would echo and just agree basically what sounds like the consensus is feel really good about the defense. Actually, exceptionally good about the defense. The way I termed it, I think, to you guys during the game is it feels to me like we actually, and I mean this, have a playoff level defense. And we have an Alamo Bowl level, it's kind of a tongue twister, offense right now. We just don't feel like we're putting it all together, and that leaves me a little ambivalent, just confused about where to be with this team. Am I optimistic overall, pessimistic? I'm sort of optimistic that we could we could win every game that we play. We definitely could, but pessimistic in that it would be very difficult for us to win maybe any stretch of games, especially against championship football. And so as I look at having to play a team twice if we were to get to the Big 12 title, and then think about being in a playoff scenario, that's kind of daunting. At the same time, I can be a little more optimistic from what I saw today that there are things that work if we can restructure and scheme around our strengths and give up on some things that I think are just not going to work for this team in this season. And I think that comes down to a lot of quarterback play. If you want, let's transition into that quarterback play then. To me, I feel like Caleb Williams is not seeing the entire field. He cannot throw a receiver open. He is not seeing a way to visualize what's going to happen on a play, even though he presumably knows the play calls. He waits to see a guy is wide open. He's missing guys who are wide open. As the play is, he's getting good pass protection, really good pass
great
protection.
pass protection. Yeah.
His zone reads, I don't understand if he's just not good at it or if they're actually forced and he's not being given an option and he is just told hand off here or keep it here. And then a lot of the running game just leaves a lot to be desired. At times, the running game looked really strong today. It seems to me, someone who maybe is not an expert on the blocking scheme, that when we're simpler, we have more success. And when we were running late in the game, they knew we wanted to run. It wasn't like it was a surprise to them. And we were still able to have a lot of success. Not as good a success as we've had in years past where we were just unbeatable. But very good success, able to have production and move the ball. What are you guys' thoughts?
Yeah, that last touchdown drive was they just ran the ball at will, it seemed like. I mean, Brooks was unstoppable there for a while.
And then Gray came in to finish it off, which was a little bit of a surprise.
I don't know what the disconnect is between all the fans and media and former players. Everybody seems to be on the same page of we stop doing what starts working. And what is Lincoln exactly trying to do? Because there was a couple of times during this game too where we pounded the football, got down there far, and then here we go back to throws. What are we doing? Why are you not just continuing to do what works? And the way your defense has been playing the last couple of games, we don't need so many shots down the field.
Right.
We just move the ball, play some old school, boring football of field position and draining the clock, and just maybe that's what we have to do this year.
Possession football.
We got killed on time possession. It was 38-20 to 21-40.
Yeah, almost.
I mean, we just
almost a double.
How many times have we won the possession game this year? Probably 3 times, maybe.
Yeah, not often, which is not a surprise on the surface of it,
Right.
knowing that you've got the guy who invented slow down football against us. But still, it is just, it's okay when you're scoring, and we come out and score early, and it looked like we were going to be able to do it again, and then we stall. We stalled out on several drives. I was really afraid we were not going to ever get to the point where we were controlling the serve, so to speak. And as you break and lose serve, then you're behind the 8 ball when
It was
you're
very
going up
much
against
last
that.
week.
Very
Up
much
until
so.
the fumble
Exactly.
Yeah,
for
it felt very
touchdown,
familiar.
it
Very
felt
familiar.
exactly like the Baylor.
Other
fumble,
than
you know.
being ahead.
Well, it was 7 to 7.5
I'm
last
sorry, not
week.
being behind.
Yeah.
Being tied versus down 10-7. But yes, I totally agree, and very much like the Kansas game. I thought that one observation, thinking specifically about Caleb, who I have tremendous admiration for. I believe he's going to be exceptionally good. I actually think he could be the next Baker Mayfield. Not maybe, that's big shoes to fill, but his style reminds me the most of Baker Mayfield, and I think he still could be someone who has tremendous success, competes for the Heisman, etc. But right now, and maybe similar to things we saw to Baker, I think that he's playing hero ball, and he's looking for the home run and not just for production. Even when he's going to run on his draws, I feel like he is looking at what he can do downfield versus get 5 yards and just be happy with that.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
He
And-
still has that young,
Yes,
that
for
young
sure.
star aspect to him where you think you can kick everything outside
Yep.
and outrun people.
Yep.
spin move.
Yeah.
He goes back to the spin move, which worked early in the season, but
Yeah, it's worked several times.
People
but,
have stopped it here lately.
you go up against talented and or fast
In the number 10
defenders,
defense.
they're going to
Yeah.
be able to stop that.
Our
So-
third down efficiency was 1 of 10. And it didn't seem to me like we had a whole bunch of third and really long. We didn't put ourselves crazy behind the chains with penalties, I don't think.
No, we didn't.
I mean, we may have had a bunch of like thirds and 6 and 7s, but
We had a few sacks that dropped us
Yeah,
deep,
we
but
did.
but we were a couple of
But
stalled
that is just
draws.
horrible. 1 of 10.
Yeah,
I mean,
It's very bad.
it's hard to win football games like that. Now, we did have quite a few turnovers on defense, which was, a huge difference. We had 3 turnovers. I saw a stat that said Iowa State fumbled 6 times and we recovered once.
That's crazy.
Which
That
is
is crazy.
pretty wild. But you just can't. You can't not convert on some third downs, which absolutely killed us in the time of possession.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, we were all pretty happy with our defense today. They went down the field and scored on the first drive, but it just seemed completely ridiculous.
But even that, we should have been off the field because it was a
Yes.
3rd and 6. Was it 3rd and 14 or
Yeah.
12, I
something? We
think,
got
yeah.
a horse collar tackle for
Yeah.
no reason.
Yeah, because he would have been
You don't
probably
think it was
4
a
yards.
good call, or you're saying
No, it was a good call. It was the tackle
You
itself
shouldn't make the tackle.
didn't need a horse collar.
I don't know that it was a good. I don't know it was a good call because to me it looked like he grabbed him where the number is. Is that still horse collar? You don't have to
I thought
actually
you got him under the jersey. I really did.
just the jersey in general. I
No,
mean,
no,
I've-
you have to
You
get
have
the
to get up
cusp
in the-
of the
right.
yeah.
And
yeah.
he, from what I could tell, he didn't. Even on replay, it didn't look like he did. So,
So
that,
you
I mean,
think
that
it
would
might
have
be a
ended
bad
the,
call?
That would have ended the drive on the
Right.
very first drive,
Mhm.
or they would have gone for it. And that was, I think, probably around the 35 or 40 yard line on their end. I don't know if they would have gone for a 4th and 3.
They went for a lot of fourth downs.
On the first drive of the game, I don't know that they would have.
Initially,
True.
in hindsight, you would think they wouldn't have that early, but
Yeah.
then seeing the series
Later, yeah.
after that, you're like, well, maybe
Which
they
the
would have.
math shows.
But still,
you
you
should
don't
always
want a
go
bad
against
call. If
OU
it's a
on
bad call,
fourth
it's a bad
down,
call.
apparently.
Apparently so. Apparently,
Yes,
we're completely
seriously.
have no ability to stop people. Well,
They were 5 of 7 on fourth down,
Wow.
wow.
4 of 17 on third down, and 5 of 7 on fourth down.
And the
That's-
last one was an interception
And and that was
on the
that's wild.
2-yard line.
Was really wild, and on that, very disappointing about how they were allowing the tight end to just drift open on that last drive, as one of them being a fourth down play. Well, what do we want to complain about first? I have a couple things about Lincoln, and then we can get into some officiating, if that makes sense to you guys. So I feel like Lincoln continues to outsmart himself.
Yep.
You brought this up, Jay. Lucas, specifically talking about, or no, maybe it was you, Jay, saying that we have success running the ball, and then all of a sudden we go to passing the ball. And I'm thinking specifically about, with about 6 minutes to play in the half, we have the ball down about the 12-yard line or something.
Second and
close.
5.
2nd and 5.
Yep.
Have that down.
Threw it twice in a row.
And we throw it, twice in a row, where you can still even get a first down. 2nd and 5, so you don't have to get the touchdown. You're very close. You're deep in the red zone. Run, and if you're 2 yards away, that's still the math that's going to work out.
Yeah.
You should be going for that on fourth down if you're 2-3 yards away
Yeah.
at that point in the game. You shouldn't do it if it's a minute to play in the half, and it wasn't. But you can't do it if you throw the ball the way they did. And it just seemed to be that he's trying to do things that don't put us in the best position to win. The fade route to, was it Hazelwood?
Mm-hmm.
And it was well thrown, and he nearly caught it. It would have been an incredible acrobatic catch.
That probably should have been PI too.
And it
'cause
probably should have been a pass interference. All of that aside, by throwing that, it's a very difficult play to execute. And a touchdown is very critical in this game. It seems like you've got better options, and we can run the ball pretty effectively. I just would like to see us running the ball in that position, but that among a few other things I see out of, I feel like Lincoln is not putting Caleb in the best position to win by not thinking about his strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
You know, when you mention that you think Caleb's playing hero ball at times, doesn't that seem like it's a 10-second conversation on the sideline?
Sure seems like it. It's tough
Like, listen, man,
attitude-wise.
Stop.
Take what they're giving
Just
you.
throw it over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just look for your check down.
I think probably the
If
easiest
not,
thing,
run
he
straight
probably
for
doesn't
5
realize
yards.
he's
Fine.
doing it. I think probably the easiest thing to do from Lincoln's standpoint is call plays that don't give him those options.
Exactly.
So you call a play where you tell him, this is your one read, this is what you do, and then you run, etc. Or this is the play call, and it doesn't have a wide open. I know it's not what Lincoln wants to do, but it may be what Lincoln needs to do to give us the best chance to succeed this season with what we're looking
Yeah,
at.
for sure. To finish it off, absolutely.
Any other complaints about the coaching? I think you had something, Lucas, about
Clock management.
Just typical
Again,
clock management.
yeah.
Yeah.
The same thing we've talked about the entire season. You're snapping the
and
ball.
other seasons.
Yeah, and other seasons. We were snapping the ball with 14 seconds left, 10 seconds left. We're nursing a 28-14 lead inside of 5 or 6 minutes, and we're snapping the ball at 14, 12, 10 instead of snapping it at 3. And all those snaps add up. I mean, we're talking about we could have ended the game a minute earlier possibly if he just takes that philosophy.
Yeah.
And Iowa State has way less time to try to go down the field on the last drive to win the game.
Which puts him in a very difficult position.
Yeah, because he had
And-
burned all his timeouts.
Yeah.
Iowa State had. So they really should have had somewhere between 40 seconds and a minute less left on the clock when they
Yeah.
took the ball on the final drive.
Yeah, I felt like that too.
And thankfully
Yeah.
it didn't come back to bite us, but we can only talk about it so many times, and it seems like every single
Every
podcast
single
we
time.
talk
It's too
about
common.
Lincoln
It's
Riley's
definitely too
time
common.
management.
And I think that it continues to be the case that it's troubling that he can't be the head coach and have that overall call it long-term overview of what's going on and manage the game.
He's looking at the play sheet.
Into the play sheet.
Yep.
So before we get into other things to complain about, let's talk about what we're drinking. I'm drinking a White Russian, or a Caucasian, as the dude would say. What are you drinking over there, Lucas?
I've got a Yangling.
Yeah. Yangling's a popular one tonight. What are you drinking, Connor?
Yangling as well.
All right, Randy, what are you drinking?
The old F5 IPA.
All right, and I think we got another F5 drinker over
Yep.
here.
Got some Coop Ale works
Okay,
here.
So I'm the odd man out, sort of. I like that. Well, at least we can all agree that the officiating improved remarkably in this game and was really good. No complaints there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's comical.
it
this
is.
point.
It is really
It
comical.
is sad.
It's pretty bad.
It is really.
I counted almost every single punt, a block in the back on Iowa State, not called. Pass interferences, at least 2 that were not called that would have changed the situation, and obviously
And
extended
how
drives.
they spot the ball.
Yep. An extra half a yard on a spot that became a 4th and a half instead of 4th and
Right.
a full yard or yard and a half.
Even
it's crazy.
Purdy's dive throwaway.
Yeah.
I don't think the ball got back to the line of
I did
scrimmage.
not. I did
That
not
ball
know how
was
that was
7
not, that
yards
was
short
not
of the line. He
intentional
threw it straight
grounding.
sideways.
Yeah,
I
that-
did not know how it wasn't.
Those were included in my notes. The missed pass interference
Yep.
calls, multiple
Yep.
pass interference calls. The intentional grounding had to be multiple holding calls. It just seems like up and down the field, the officiating is really poor. Some of the things they reviewed were kind of interesting. I thought the reviews actually went the right way, even though one of them. No.
Yeah.
One of the
No.
reviews went the right way. One of them distinctly didn't, but not in the way that most fans probably feel like. So in the very early in the game, their first drive of the game.
Yeah, the original call.
The original call is an incomplete pass.
Yep.
And then they overturn that and say it was a completed pass, and then technically speaking, correct. The defensive player's touching the ball, causing it to fumble. When it's loose, he's out of bounds, therefore it's a dead ball. But how in the world they can overturn that and call it a completion is beyond me.
Yeah.
If they would have called a completion on the field and then come back and said
Right.
his
Inconclusive.
foot was out of bounds when he knocked the ball loose, I could see you having to stick with that call.
Right.
But you definitely can't overturn an already incomplete pass
By
to
what
be a
you saw
completed
there.
pass by
It
what they
just-
saw.
Just didn't seem
No matter
like
how
it to
many
me,
slow
too.
motion replays and angles you saw, they should not have been a completed pass.
Well, pushing back against the narrative, I think all of us to one degree or another are somewhat endorsing that there is somewhere between a bias and a conspiracy. I think it's just an unwritten bias against OU. I don't think there's a conspiracy, at least not a league-wide one. There may be a couple refs that have it out for us.
Is it a conspiracy if it only involves one person?
Well,
I don't think so.
No, it wouldn't be, but I said a couple.
Which would be Bob
But I'm not
Bowles.
even saying, yeah. I'm not even saying it's a couple. I don't think it goes up to Bob Bowlesby. I don't think he's clever enough.
You're not paying
for
attention.
there to be a conspiracy. But I do think that there is some hardcore bias. I'll at least yield that. There's got to be with what we're seeing out there.
But Lincoln's got to take some responsibility on some of those calls too, like
To be
the
more
the
aggressive.
spots.
The spot, he's got to call a challenge.
He's
got to
to
challenge that.
those.
And his guys in the booth need to be looking at that challenge.
Yeah.
And our replay people need to be looking and replaying that.
Yeah.
Give
And
them
relaying
every
it to
look.
Lincoln. Yeah, exactly.
Somebody's got to relay to
Somehow.
him to challenge that, because that was nearly a no-brainer that you challenged
I
it.
was very shocked that Perry Winfrey did not get a targeting
Ooh, man.
on
good
his
job.
hit.
Well, that's what I
because
was
he
going to say,
absolutely
pushing back
destroyed
against this
Purdy.
bias idea. And it doesn't necessarily negate it in any way, because they could just, at the same time they're really bad at their job, they're also
Yeah.
biased. But it definitely was targeting when Perry Winfrey hit Purdy. And what's disgusting to me is how much they showed it on the replay.
Oh, my gosh.
And the fan response was just like, quit showing it, guys.
Yeah.
They're going to, you can review that.
Yeah.
Don't do it. And then the
Iowa
other,
State called a timeout.
Yeah.
yeah, Iowa State called a time.
Well, yeah, he
Matt Campbell
called the
was
refs over.
complaining,
Yeah, and they
And I
charged him
think
with a
he might have
timeout.
been thinking it should have been taunting when
Yeah.
Winfrey was
did
doing this.
did the
Yeah.
did
The
sleepy
sleeping,
time.
Yeah.
The only
Which they
small
were loose
piece
on
of
that
that
stuff.
that maybe they didn't call it was because
He was.
he
a runner
completely
at that
ran
point.
back into it. It wasn't.
Oh,
when he
and
turned
ducked
back
his
around.
that
He-
contributes to how wicked of a play it looks, because
Yes.
he is running into
he
it.
turned around and
There's a point to
Yeah.
that. There's a point to that.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is, and there may be other examples, I'm sure there are, but the illegal forward pass. So when they called Iowa State for illegal forward pass, they did that after the play was dead. I found that fairly surprising, because they didn't have to do it. So
Right.
if there's a conspiracy or bias, they definitely had a chance to keep that flag in their pocket, and they didn't do it. And it was an illegal second forward pass, which was so stupid. Is that the play call that Matt Campbell designs?
I mean, it was
What?
probably supposed to be the handoff,
And it had to
they
have
just
been.
didn't realize.
Had to have
yeah.
been. It was amazing, and what's kind of amazing is I didn't catch it at the time, or you guys. I usually see that kind of stuff and
Yeah.
can think right away what we're looking at.
Right.
It didn't register
Same.
with me.
Same here.
Another thing that didn't register with the team, trying to move on, but we don't have to move on from the officiating if we have more examples. I love bringing them up. But how did the team not have in their mindset an awareness that they would fake that punt?
God.
Oh my word!
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
inexcusable.
I mean,
It
this
is
to be honest.
inexcusable.
This
We
is
run,
Matt
we
Campbell
run
they're
punt
playing
safe
against.
every time we punt the ball. They
Yeah.
punt the ball.
Yeah.
We run punt safe,
And then
and we still can't defend it.
yeah, it was.
God.
And Jay, you
That's
called it when
crazy.
you said they go for every fourth down. Do you think they're not going to fake the punt?
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
not
I-
afraid of this thing.
What was the down and distance? It was fourth and
Fourth and
15
six.
or
it's-
something.
it was a-
No,
it was like
was it?
It
It
was
was
long.
long.
fourth and
they were
8.
behind the chains.
I thought it was like 8. I
Yeah.
thought it was like.
I could have swore it was past 10
I
yards.
feel like they had just gotten a completion to get them back
4th and 5-ish
Yeah.
or something like that.
to because they were
I think
third-
it was longer than that.
They were third and like 16 or 15 or something, and they got I thought they got 7 or 8 yards on the
I do
play,
know
but-
that he had the top rushing play of the day for Iowa State.
You did.
Yeah, he just kept going. Like, I don't think the team would have even known if the fans
the
weren't there.
fans weren't
I think
there.
the fans
Yeah.
alerted the team that, hey, there's
Yeah.
something going on here
That's funny. They're not usually reacting that way during a.
during a fair catch.
I never heard this fake word.
It's the most exciting fair catch we've ever heard.
They really like what I'm doing here. So, the other thing that in this.
Well, to continue with that,
Oh, go ahead.
there's no reason to call an all-out punt return
Oh, absolutely.
in that scenario. You're
doesn't
not going
help
to
you.
gain anything.
Right.
It doesn't
It's
help
not
you.
like we've been taking punts back.
Right.
Anyway.
Exactly.
Yeah, we don't
Exactly.
have
Why are we
Uh,
not in punt safe just always?
Antonio
Because it's a-
Perkins or JT Thatcher back there. The punting game has changed. Whatever by rule or whatever, punts just don't get returned the way they used to in the
Right.
good old days.
Yeah, I think it has something to do with gunners.
It
Like,
must be.
the amount of
Contact
who,
they
who,
can get.
Who can run down there? I think the people blocking used to have to wait
for the
a
ball
certain
to be
amount
kicked.
of time.
You're right.
And now
everyone can release.
everyone can just release.
So at that point, you got to look at the strategy and adopt just the punt safe
Yeah.
every time, and not even try to set up the return unless you just really can develop something against a specific team. And in that situation, there's no reason to take the risk. Which, speaking of risk, why was Gray back there, even though Stoops who's number 2, typically has been in the depth chart in terms of returns?
don't
Why
know.
isn't Mims your guy?
Why is Mims not back
Is
there?
Mims
Yeah. I have no
recovering
idea.
from sickness? And
I don't know.
because
I
he
don't know.
didn't play that much today.
Gray looked bad.
Yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe they just didn't feel like. Of course, how much energy does it take to fair catch a ball? But,
True.
um,
True.
I don't know.
There we go.
Well, Alabama is getting trouble from Arkansas. Arkansas can't help themselves. They're still on a comeback trail. It'll be very interesting to see if they can pull this out. But they're definitely beating the spread, right? Arkansas
Yeah. Oh yeah.
was a 20-point dog or
Spread
something.
is covered for sure.
So that's, again, goes back to something I've been harping on all year. Alabama's very overrated. And it's the most egregious mistake the College Football Playoff Committee has been making in their rankings.
Absolutely.
So
Look at what Georgia did to this team.
it'll be very interesting to see. Oh, what did Georgia do to Arkansas?
Yeah.
They beat them bad.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I'm going to have a controversial take here that may not be super controversial if you think about it. Burkitt is overrated.
Yeah. No kidding.
Yeah.
And I think he's still very, very good. But he's overrated.
Lately.
I think in general. But that's a question I have.
He
So,
had a great season last year, too.
oh, he's very good. I didn't say he's not good.
He
People
had,
always
he had a good season.
people
last year.
misinterpret the overrated. Like Georgia's overrated right now. That's because Georgia, while they're good, they're not invincible. And so many people overrate them because they think they're invincible. So I think he's overrated, and I really like Burkitt. I like his personality. I think he's a very talented kicker. But I think we have to recognize it could just be an aberration of what we've seen recently. So he misses the kick, the short 21-yard chip shot field goal
Oh, for his last
off
three.
the upright.
He almost missed the first extra point as well
He had difficulty
He
on the
barely
extra
got it over the
points. He
crossbar.
missed 2
at Baylor.
field goals at Baylor, and he could, I think I brought this up before, he could still be injured if he was injured. Whatever
Yeah.
reason he didn't finish the Texas Tech game. Or it could be aberrational. Guys miss things. But I do think, here's my hypothesis. I think he's an extremely strong kicker, very strong leg. Hence, he makes these incredible long kicks where you have to have strength and a great leg to kick it from 50-plus yards and make
Right.
it. You have to have some degree of accuracy. But you don't have to be super accurate. You really just have to be able to kick it really far.
Yeah.
I think he's stronger than he is accurate. And so I think he's got a lot of distance, but he doesn't have a lot of accuracy and touch. And I'm willing to say that it could be small sample size, aberrations, whatever. And I really like Berkey, so I throw out that take of being overrated to be a little provocative. But however, I don't want Lincoln to rely on him, and I feel like the entire season he's been relying on him, assuming it is automatic, and it is not.
Think about the ending of the Texas game.
Oh man.
Yep.
Lincoln slow played the crap out of that final drive.
He did.
And we thought he was gonna take a knee on the 35 and have a 52-yarder to win the game.
Right.
When luckily that play that we've only ran in
That
that
we've
game,
never ran
apparently,
again.
we've only
Which
ran
we
it
never
twi-
ran
ran it
again.
three
I want
times
to
in
bring
that
that
game.
up.
Why would we?
I want to
But
bring that up.
luckily, Kenny Brooks busted off the crazy run to win the game, or else it would have
Yeah.
been a Gabe Burkich to win the game,
Yep.
52-yard field goal, whatever it would have been.
Which is obviously can go wrong in a
Yeah,
lot of
at this
different
point,
ways.
who knows if he would have made it because
Or
he's missed
gotten a block,
so many short
or
ones. Yeah,
who knows, bad snap.
yeah.
So let's ask that question. Why the hell have we not been running that play? We had such success. It obviously has a design fake
Yeah.
that you could actually execute by pitching it back to Caleb. Why are we not running that at all?
I mean, once or
And
twice a
we've
game.
gone far enough away from when we did use it that
Yeah.
it's
That it would be a surprise.
It's a
again.
surprise.
Maybe
Yeah.
they're just
Yeah.
saving it, quote unquote, for
I
OSU.
think he might be, or whoever.
Which I don't like.
And I
that
think
Maybe.
that's a mistake
Maybe.
because if
Yep.
you've got a great play, I don't think you need to save it. They see that on film. It's not like they're going to forget it. Don't rely on them not to know about it or forget it. Rely on them not to know the wrinkle that you're going to play with it. Or
rely
make
on your own
them-
execution.
Or rely on your own execution and hope that you're taking their valuable practice time preparing for
Yep.
it. Show them goofy stuff in the early part of the season. So they have to prepare for every one of those stupid plays that are tough.
The
and
play,
tricky.
the touchdown Caleb had, 74-yard touchdown.
Yeah.
We had a guy in motion. He takes a snap. He does. I don't remember if it's a pump fake necessarily, but he acted like he was going to throw it.
He shrugged.
He
yeah.
shrugged it and then took off running, which was by design.
Completely
and next thing you know,
opened up
boom,
the
yep.
linebackers.
We talked about it last pod about pump fakes.
Mm-hmm.
and
I don't-
those are not easy
I don't need to pump fake it
to
every
do against
single
Iowa
time.
State either.
But it wouldn't kill you 3 or 4 times a game
Yep.
after you've thrown like it. We talked about it when it was Rattler. He ran that. He ran
Yeah.
that the Mike Woods out route against Baylor a couple times. If you run that early in the game and then you go back to it and run a stop and go with a pump fake, it's killer.
I love the stop and go with
Yeah.
the pump fake. Here's why I know it would work. I've seen it work against us so
100
many times.
Yeah.
And it's a very effective play. There's a lot of effective plays that I don't think we run. I'm sure we'll break out some stuff. To me, I don't know, it's weird little trick plays instead of part of your bigger scheme that you can incorporate in different ways and show different wrinkles. I'd rather us be doing the different wrinkle stuff.
Yeah, 100%.
So that's a little disappointing and frustrating. Just continue to be disappointed by the offense and scared, concerned, not knowing where this thing is headed. Unproductive.
Just super unproductive.
So let's talk a little bit about outlook. Today was Senior Day, and you guys were telling me earlier in the week, Lincoln said don't read anything into who's out on Senior Day. Those guys may come back because of the COVID year. They may retain eligibility. So what do you think about my one take right off the bat was it didn't look like we were losing much, even if all of those guys go are done.
Defensive line.
Defensive line had a couple, but
H-backs.
I feel like we're pretty strong.
Yeah, Jeremiah Hall.
Jeremiah Hall.
Hall.
Yeah.
And Braden Willis. We're losing both our H-backs.
Yeah, those guys are replaceable.
Rumor this week was Stogner was talking about.
Replaceable.
Portal.
Well, we also have two
Replaceable.
two 4-stars coming in at that
Freshmen.
position too.
Like, I feel like
Better than Stogner.
you're going to lose people every year, and trying to think back year after year, don't feel like it's a year where I feel like, oh boy, we're really losing a lot. But then again, we may retain some of these guys who need to come back.
I mean, if you have an extra year and you're a guy like Braden Willis or Jeremiah Hall, the NFL only has 3 or 4 teams with fullbacks to begin with.
As Jeremiah Hall was saying on his podcast this week, and so he recognizes
he
that.
actually has a body type that he could probably play tight end.
Yeah.
Jeremiah Hall cannot be a tight end.
Braden Willis.
He's a fullback. Yeah, you're right. Jeremiah Hall is a fullback. He has probably a very limited shot in the NFL. He's talked to Flowers isn't in the NFL anymore. He actually tried the XFL.
Yeah.
And he was, in my opinion, Flowers was better than Jeremiah Hall.
Yes.
Flowers is arguably our best fullback ever.
I mean, Hall's a good player, but he's probably the 4th or 5th best fullback
Trey
with
Miller,
Lincoln Riley.
yeah,
around.
So, I guess if you just want to move on with your life and you're tired of the bumps and bruises of playing football, why would you not come back other than that?
Yeah.
If
But
you have that
now,
extra eligibility.
in a day and age where you have NIL, it's not the same equation as it used to be of it just being, do I really love this and the bumps and bruises?
Yeah.
Now you actually can make some money
Right.
doing it. So I think it would be good if he does want to get into, so I'm thinking Jeremiah Hall
And he's already got a
specifically,
podcast.
He's going to law school. So he'll want to be a lawyer, probably, at least he was hinting at this, he might be a sports attorney of some kind.
Mhm.
You'd probably want to stay closer to the game.
Yep.
Seems like. So maybe there's a good chance
If he
comes
has
back.
eligibility, which we're not all clear exactly on how the COVID year works
Right.
for everybody yet.
I don't know. I've never heard anything like you have to declare at some point. So I think it's a matter of really maybe who the school would offer. So they may offer guys because they've got to manage how many guys they have on scholarship
right.
and how many new signees they have. But
I know Pat Field's interview, I think he said something along the lines that this was his last.
Yeah, Pat
home
Fields
game?
is gone. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pat Fields is done.
But he didn't have to be.
No.
Right, he's just choosing to.
No, he just chose to explicitly say
As far as we know,
today was his
he
last.
chose. It
One
could be that some coach told him, yeah, and that's good because you're not coming back.
Gonna play, yeah.
Now, did we ever figure out, was Kennedy?
He's a redshirt.
He's a redshirt junior.
Yep.
Okay.
He'll come back. He didn't put enough film up this year. That's why Jalen Redmond's the same way. Jalen Redmond was projected super high 2 years ago. Hasn't put up
He's
enough film
he's been injured
ever since. I mean,
If he, it just depends on what he actually sees and
where
what
you
he's
desire,
hearing.
yeah,
and
what you desire.
what
in
and
terms of,
what advice you're getting from the.
Yeah,
the
he
people
had a
that
heck
know
of a
him.
game today, though.
He did
Yeah,
have a
was
great game.
He played really well.
He was definitely causing havoc in the backfield. Plus, obviously the fumble return for a touchdown, the scoop and score. That ball just popped up perfectly.
Did we
him.
have
Yeah,
a scoop and
it
score
was beautiful.
since West Virginia 2 years ago?
I
Or
couldn't
3
tell
years
you.
ago?
I
No,
couldn't
I
tell
thought
you
that
a
was.
defensive
Yeah.
touchdown in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mookie had a pick six.
Yeah, there's been some pick six. We had a pick six this year.
But he also was the cause of that first interception.
but with his
with
disruption.
the pressure
Mhm.
Yeah.
that he had on that.
Yeah, so
quarterback.
what?
that's
Iowa
right.
State allowed 12 sacks on the season, and we busted out 7
More to
today.
that.
We had 7
That's
sacks
impressive.
today?
So 7 of 19.
Wow.
We're 7 of 19
Yes.
of their sacks.
Wow.
That's great. Well, I'm pretty excited about.
If we can do that to Spencer Sanders, we can keep them
Yeah.
on their heels.
But Purdy was gun shy in the fourth quarter when he came back in.
Yeah. Although he didn't have a problem leading down
Yeah,
down
those
the
last
field.
two drives were
The next
were
last drive and the last
nuts.
drive.
Yeah.
But he had definitely taken a beating
That's
during that
kind
game.
of Brock Purdy, isn't
Yep.
it?
It
You know?
is.
It
man.
is.
It's so on par.
It's strange.
Yep.
So
Case.
a question similar to the senior day one, but redirected to Matt Campbell. Do you think he's at Iowa State next year?
I think with the disappointing year that they had, it would be hard for another school to say, "Oh, we definitely
You're
want
our
this guy."
guy.
But
Yeah.
there are a bunch of jobs coming
Bunch
open.
of jobs open. Bunch of
I mean,
jobs.
this
Depends what
this,
you want. Depends what
this
you
looks
want.
like the biggest year I can ever remember. That, like
Yeah.
the second tier. I mean, obviously top tier. I'm only going to count probably 5 teams. OU, Iowa State. I mean, OU, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia. Those type of jobs. But I mean, we're talking LSU, USC, possibly Florida.
USC looks interesting
Likely
to me.
Florida.
Likely Florida.
These are
Yeah.
big jobs.
Yeah,
Very
big.
big.
Job. Texas. I mean, who knows what's going to happen there? They got their
Yes,
6th
who
straight
knows?
loss.
They're not going to a
today.
bowl game.
I don't
They're not
think
going
they're
to.
going to.
I don't think they
but
will either, but you never know.
You
with
never
that,
know
with those
because
donors. You never know.
It just a lot of things, but yeah, you never know what monkey's going to bite the wrong person
Yeah.
or what might happen.
What
It's a
poll?
problem. It's a real
How many
problem.
It is a
assassins
big
will be on the
problem.
polls?
There's
Yeah, a lot of polls.
They might dig a problem up, and all of a sudden Sark is gone without a buyout, and so that makes
Oh,
things
yeah.
a lot easier. But who knows? You're
So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know about Matt Campbell. I mean,
Yeah.
it's domino effect. I mean, what if Franklin takes a job somewhere and Penn State's like, oh, we really
Uh-huh.
like Matt Campbell. He's
Right.
the type of guy that would work well here.
Yeah.
You have to take a Penn State job over an Iowa State job.
You think Franklin goes to USC?
I don't know. I don't feel like he's a Southern California kind of guy.
I don't either.
If so, Fickle at Cincinnati.
Yep.
If he takes a bigger job, would that be a job that would lure a guy away?
Who wanted Fickle last year that he turned down?
Like a Matt Campbell. That'd be pretty
Iowa
lateral,
State to
wouldn't it?
Cincinnati? That's
In
that's
the
a
same
downgrade,
conference?
I think.
No, but
Yeah.
if
I
they're
think it's a downgrade.
I think it's a downgrade.
I mean, do you
I don't
think
think the fan base it's Cincinnati's anything like Iowa State.
Iowa State's not that strong.
do you
but
think he leaves Cincinnati with them moving into
Big 12.
Big 12?
It
It depends
yeah,
on the
but
job.
we don't know when that's going to be.
if he got offered the USC
Who
job.
offered him last? Someone wanted him last year, and he was
It could be 2 to 3 years still before
a
Cincinnati's in the
decent
Big 12
sized school. I feel like.
I don't recall.
because they had commitments
True.
that they have to finish out in their conference. So.
Hey, if you get all the
I thought their
second-hand players
conference
out of
released.
Ohio, though,
I think their
you can
conference
field
said
a-
you guys
can
can
field
go
a
when you're
team.
ready to
Yeah,
go.
Oh,
you
they
do
did.
I
okay.
think so. That I remember hearing that.
I
but
thought
don't hold me
BYU
to
was the
that.
only one that could go quickly
No, I think they.
because they're independent, obviously.
Yeah, right. I think they could go pretty soon, if not immediately.
Mm.
I can't remember how that broke down exactly, but yeah, that's a point. They're against it. I don't know. It's just interesting. The guy who was such a supposed super commodity last year, and then has faded kind of quickly.
Yeah.
Well, I think you have to look at the body of work, though. I mean, to get Iowa State to be this consistent to upper level.
How consistent are they?
Who do they play next
They
week?
consistently lose to Iowa.
I mean, they made it to a Big 12 title game
They did do that
Yeah.
once.
once.
But
Yeah.
it's Iowa State. I mean, for Iowa State, this has been a great 4 or 5 years.
They were 2 and
Big
5
12's been
against
weak.
OU going into today.
Yeah.
which
So
is
that
saying
body of
something
work
for them.
doesn't seem that strong to me. It's strong, but it's not as strong as the record that watching here the Baylor K-State game that a number of Baylor coaches have put up in the
TCU.
recent decade. It doesn't seem as strong as what we saw out of teams like a TCU with Gary Patterson for a long time, who also is obviously not with his team any longer.
Only one Big 12 title game for them as well.
Yeah.
Although they did win a Big 12 when there wasn't a title game.
No one's been to the
Tied
Big 12
for it.
2.0 title game more than once, except for us.
Except for OU. And let's talk about
Probably
that. Are
gonna
we
be
going
the
to be
same
there?
thing this year.
Are we going to be there?
I think so.
I think we're going to be there.
I think Baylor's going to lose this game.
Baylor's
Yeah.
not looking great. If Baylor loses, OU's definitely in the
Yeah.
title game.
They just lost their quarterback, right?
Yeah, they lost.
He looked like he was fairly hurt.
Bohannon looks like
He pulled a
ripped
hamstring
hammy.
really
Yeah.
well.
We thought Brock Purdy wasn't coming back in either, and he came in and led a
Well,
touchdown drive and almost a second touchdown drive.
Yeah.
They'll,
And they
they'll
would have
take
gone
him
for
up
2.
at halftime. He'll be back.
I believe everybody thinks Iowa State would have gone for 2 on that final drive.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
You have to.
Yeah, I do.
I mean, Patterson did it the one year, and Stephen Parker knocked the ball down, which was
There was a lot of people there for a while. OSU went for it.
yep.
So one thing that occurs to me thinking about that, how many teams have done that
Even
kind of
Iowa
stuff,
State.
is thinking how many teams have kicked onside kicks against us and how many of them there have been, multiple by some teams in the same game. It's got to be a record for us, right? It's got to be
Oh, my
Oh, yeah.
gosh.
the most
Yeah.
onside kicks that we've ever seen kicked against OU. But back to the title game, Randy. Do you think we're going to be there?
Yeah, I think so. Next week, I don't know what. That's going to be a tough game, man. That's going to be. If I'm thinking Baylor might lose this ball game.
Put us in there no matter what. Lucas, do you think we're going to make it to the title game? Let's assume Baylor wins. Do you think we're going to beat OSU and get in that title game?
Why not?
I think I think it's easy to say there's a pretty good chance that those boys are doing something in there with that football they shouldn't be doing.
If our defense plays,
And you tell them to stop doing that.
if our defense plays the way we did first 3 quarters of Baylor, and for the majority of this game,
The girls are there too.
we just need the offense to not lay an egg.
Yeah,
I mean,
we need
we gotta
offensive
be-
production.
we gotta be better than
have to
1
have
and 10 in
offensive
third down.
production.
We've got to move the
Consistent
ball
offensive
consistently.
production.
Yep.
I think that we're going to beat Oklahoma State, but that's my optimism speaking. I hope we want that to happen, and I say that because I want to win the Big 12. And I don't know what exactly the magic formula is for us to do that in terms of probability. Obviously, the only way to do it is to win the title game.
Right.
And I would like to think that we can come out with a lot to play for, beat OSU, and then go into that game with a lot to play for and beat OSU, assuming it's OSU, or if it's Baylor. I could see us, though, having a big letdown if we go in as the big favorite who has won and at least the favorite in our own minds, and then a team that just got punched in the mouth comes back at you with some different stuff. So I don't know. It'd be rough to not beat them, but we've already lost to Baylor once. So if we were to get the avenging win, I know how much sweeter that would feel than the reverse, where you beat them in the regular season and then you lose in the title game.
Seeing Caleb Kelly this morning on the Big Noon kickoff, he was wearing his 5 Big 12 title rings on his hand, and Reggie Bush compared him to Thanos because he just had these 5 giant rings on. And I mean, to us, it would seem awesome to have even one Big 12 championship ring. I mean, how do you think the players feel as far as motivation? We always start the year off expecting to go to the Big 12 title game and pretty much expecting to win it.
Expecting to be favored.
After 6 in a row, what's the motivational factor? I would still think it's going to be high because
I would think
it's got
it's
to be
still very,
cool as
very
a
high.
20-year-old to get one of those huge-ass rings
Well, there's some
to have for the rest of your life.
fraternal support or motivation to keep up the tradition.
Yeah.
And the tradition is we win that game and
Right.
win the title. So
Yeah, that's what you have to hope, that you're not letting people
resting on your
down.
laurels
Yeah.
and letting people down.
Yeah.
So I think the motivation will be high, but then again, you can still come into a game with a sense of arrogance that doesn't get you to prepare properly. You also want to have an open mind about what you might see in terms of who you're up against,
Right.
and if they're gonna bring different game plans against you, even week by week. For sure, we know Mike Gundy would do something different if he's playing against us for the second week in a row.
I mean, I picked us to lose this game today just because
You're a loser.
what we've seen from the offense. I didn't know where we're gonna generate points, and luckily the defense generated some points for us, and then played lights out for 55 minutes of the game.
Oh, easy. I think
So-
no arguments with the defense at all. Agreed.
So, with that leading into next week, I'd say I'm I'm pretty neutral. I haven't decided yet. I'll go with we win next week.
Next week scares me
Just
so bad.
because I feel like you guys have a lot of times have said, it's fixable. We can fix this. I do think the offense.
I'm not sure if we can fix this.
I
Who
think
listens
the-
to these guys? That's what I want to know.
I think the offense can be fixed easier than our defense can be fixed. Because
I agree.
Preach
it's
it.
But
just-
also the defense doesn't need fixing at this
No.
point.
But I'm saying, but when we were
general.
talking about it, we were talking more about
Gotcha.
fixing the defense.
Gotcha.
Right.
And I felt like that was just a harder thing to do. We've seen Caleb Williams have games where he's on, and our offense was virtually unstoppable. I think that's just a matter of Lincoln calling the right plays, Caleb making a couple of different reads the correct way, and if our defense played like it has the last 2 weeks, I mean, we obviously can win next week.
We should go. We should go to Stillwater.
No thanks.
Come on, let's do it.
We were all going to go as long as we won every game this season,
Yeah.
and with
It's
the
just
Baylor
a tough
loss,
call to make. I know I'm going to go, so
Oh.
I feel pretty good about not going from the standpoint
do too.
of
I don't want to come
saving
up
the
there
money.
and get you out of jail.
I don't want to have to fight. I think if we had 4 of us in the section, plus Elise could take a good
3
2
Cowboys,
rows.
yeah.
2 rows of
Oh, 2
Cowboys.
rows.
I think we could take on an entire section again. We were going to have a hard time with a pregnant woman and
Just us.
just us and no Elise. But we would have Elise with us as well as you guys. I think we could take on a full section this year. But I don't want to do that. I don't want to pay their prices. I don't want to be treated the way we're treated when we're up there. And if we lose, we're obviously not going to the Big 12 title game. So, or I guess not necessarily, but I'm going to the Big 12 title game one way or the other.
Right.
And so I'm going to get
One
to
way
see
or
this
the other?
team.
If OU's not in the title game, you're
if
still
OU's,
going?
If OU's
Oh,
playing, like,
gotcha.
regardless of if I go to Stillwater this
Okay.
week or not. So I'll get to see what I really want to see out of this.
Right.
But it's going to feel a little weird to not go to the game after going. But when we beat the Cowboys this coming Saturday, and then when we beat one of the two, be it Cowboys or Baylor Dirty Bears, in the title game, will we be in the playoff?
Nope.
Lucas, what do you
we
think?
will not be.
You think you're going to say we're not going to be?
We are not going to be.
How come? You're
because,
saying what's updated for you?
First, the committee doesn't respect this conference at all. The way it all shakes out, you probably still get Georgia in there with the win over Bama. Or if Bama beats Georgia somehow, which doesn't look like they're good enough too, but if they did, both those teams are getting in. Undefeated Cincinnati gets in over us, I still think. And I don't see any way Ohio State loses to Michigan or whoever in their title game they're playing.
But really,
Wisconsin.
the
whoever
real
it is.
path is
Wisconsin might get beat tonight.
Oregon losing. I mean, Oregon has to lose for us to get in, I think.
And they play tonight against Utah, and Utah's favored.
And they'll play.
Nope.
I think it's already set up. I think they play them again
Oh,
in the Pac-12.
oh, is it really?
I think.
Yeah.
I think for sure that's already
Wow.
set.
Yeah.
That's very
um,
tough.
I do believe an Oregon loss. Definitely, we can get in with an Oregon loss, being Big 12 champs.
No, I don't know. They put Cincinnati in over us.
Okay, but you've got Georgia,
Yep.
Ohio State,
Yep.
Cincinnati.
and who?
And OU.
And OU.
Yeah.
11-1 Notre Dame. They have no marquee victories
No, I agree.
at all. The best team they played, they lost to. And then when the committee sits around and does their final deciding factors, and they factor in that conference title,
Yeah.
Notre Dame simply doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So really, I think the Big 12, whether it's OU or OSU, their key to getting in is Oregon.
Yeah.
Because that win for Oregon just keeps getting better and better and better the way Ohio State's looking.
Mm-hmm.
And even if Oregon struggles, it doesn't matter. They have that win on their resume,
Mhm.
and they will not be kept out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So Oregon has to lose a second game.
Well, they don't have to lose, but that's an easy path for us.
Or Cincinnati could lose. Sure.
Lots
yeah.
of things can happen. There's
But-
lots of paths. And I think we're going to have a path open to us if we win.
Yeah.
Any difference of opinion? Or
I kind of agree with Jay. If Oregon keeps winning, they're going to be in. I'm afraid OU's not going to win next week.
Well, that
And,
definitely kills everything. Oh, you cannot lose.
I mean, yeah, if they lose next week, they're out of contention for the championship, whether they go to the Big 12 or not.
Yeah.
I think.
And
So,
I think you're absolutely correct. And again, we always keep alluding to this other discussion and debate. I am not completely convinced that I want to see this team in the playoff, although I do believe that's what I want. I think that's you always want a chance at bat. You never know what's going to happen. You guys laugh when I say it, but if we're fourth and Georgia's one, Georgia might overlook us in a way that is devastating to them.
I might actually
We might actually
prefer
beat
to
them.
be fourth.
Yeah,
Well,
I don't
play
think I want
Ohio
to play
State.
Ohio State right now.
right. Yeah, right. Or even if you were to win to then get into the championship against Georgia, they are less likely to overlook you if you are the championship game than if you are a game before the championship game, where they're very likely to be just checking the box they've already won and looking forward to the championship.
The only reason I think Georgia might not overlook us is because of our playoff game in the past
Right.
with them a couple
What
years ago.
happened?
Kirby Smart's not going to let us sneak up on him with our innovative offense, and he'll show his team,
Innovative offense. What's that?
well, what he thinks we're going to show up with an innovative offense. He's going to show his team that game, that film, and be like, hey, we went in there thinking we're going to steamroll these guys, and it was a dogfight the whole time. So I don't know if we would sneak up on Georgia.
Well, I think you'd sneak up on their players not preparing properly. When I look at their players' celebrations, they have every right to be very enthused and happy, but they seem to have some arrogance. They seem to have entitlement that they think they have won a lot more than they've actually won at this point. And that's a formula for a team that potentially doesn't prepare well. Again, that's admitting that we're going to probably need some help if we get there, that we're going to be a double-digit dog, rightfully so, and would need some help. The ball needs to bounce our way. I don't believe in any way that we're due for that, or that those things, it doesn't work that way, that if you get yourself in a series of unlucky situations, that all of a sudden you deserve luck. But I will say OU has not had the ball bounce their way for quite a while. When you look at championship games, etc., going back for 2 decades, we've had the ball bounce against us in a lot of respects.
Yep.
So not that we're due for it, but it can bounce the other way, and things can change. And you can win a game if the ball bounces your way.
Best case scenario would be
Winning it all.
Wisconsin to somehow win that Big Ten championship game.
God. Yeah.
And that would, if you kept Michigan and or Ohio State out of the playoffs, now you're talking about maybe playing Oregon. That's a game I feel like we have a,
I agree.
a boxer's chance.
I agree.
Puncher's chance.
We say that. You never know. You never know. You see these teams, you see just a small sample size. Sometimes you can get really surprised. They also play amongst themselves so much. And so you look at this game right here that we're seeing highlights of Ohio State, Michigan State. Ohio State drubbed them. Ohio State looks tremendous today. Michigan State just might be a bad football team, and this was a bad day for them to boot.
Yep.
Ohio State, they've looked suspect at times this season. They look really good right now. But a lot can happen between now and a month and a half from today when those games are going to be played.
Right.
So we'll see how that breaks down. Any other predictions anybody wants to make or outlooks, forecasts? I don't think any of us are exceptionally optimistic. I would say that we're kind of worried
It's just like a very holding pattern.
very
until next
apprehensive
Saturday.
and concerned.
Until next Saturday.
It is a very interesting feel to a 10-1 team.
It is. And so to give us some credit, I mean, I know, Jay, you definitely came into this pretty concerned. Obviously, you picked Iowa State to win. Lucas and I both said at the start of the day that we were very concerned and didn't feel good about it, and yet we played pretty well and were ahead most all of the game. So we passed a test today. It wasn't beautiful.
And we played poorly.
And we played poorly at times, and we
On
still
offense.
passed the
On
test.
offense.
Yeah. And won without having to have some razzle-dazzle things, again, balls bounce our way, or plays that did something for us that we weren't just out there getting gritty and earning. So maybe we should be a little more optimistic. I don't know. Next week will definitely be another benchmark. It'll be something that we we just played a really good defense. We're playing again another really good defense. We'll see what we can put together. Is Iowa State's offense better than Oklahoma State's offense?
I would
Yes.
say it is.
Arguably similar.
I would.
Similar to better, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think there's a pretty good chance that our
Iowa State beat
defense
Oklahoma
has
State.
even more success
Iowa State did beat Oklahoma State.
next week. We'll see. Stillwater can be a difficult place to play. It hasn't been for OU.
Mike Gundy's 2-13 against Oklahoma.
Yep, and does worse at home, and they always do worse when they have more to play for. It seems like I'm going to throw a lot of that out. I don't think it actually applies, but it has been the trend over a decade here.
If we do-
I'll bank on it. If we can take it, if that'll make us win, I'll love it.
If we do play them twice, do you want next week's game to come down to the wire and we get a victory? Or do you want us to thump them?
I want 2 curb stompings.
Down to the wire. It's got
But
to
you don't
be
think
down.
that affects the championship game? Like,
Well, no. So
It's-
you're answering different questions. So he's saying what we want, and I want 2 curb stompings too. What do you want in terms of greatest
Benefits?
chance to the
what-
benefit for going into
do you
the
think
title
Do
game?
you think a tight game in a rematch, like if the first one's a tight game and we win, it gives them hope that, guys, we were this close.
Now, embedded in that is an assumption, and that is that you're not getting a look into the teams. So, in a Bayesian sense, when you update your probability, if you win by 40 points, you have to say, oh, you're a much better team than them. So, yeah, you'd rather win by 40 points than 2 because, therefore, you're better when you win by 40. You're saying set that aside. The teams are the same,
The reason I
outcome.
say this is I have a feeling if we were to win by 28 points next week, I think we
I hear you.
would have more of a letdown.
I hear you.
In the next
No, I hear you.
That's what I think.
So I'm saying if the teams are the same, which we have to always look at that and say that's a weird assumption that we are going to make here. I think I'd rather have the close game because I think the preparation benefit there outweighs. If you blow them out, they actually may check out and think they don't have a chance. But then again, if they check out and think they don't have a chance, they may throw some weird stuff at you
Yeah.
because they got nothing to lose.
Right.
So I think you're probably onto. That's a long way of agreeing with what I assume you're saying, and that is we'd rather have a close game next week where we squeak out a victory.
Which one of those impresses the committee more?
That's a
a
good
blowout
point.
next weekend and then a tight win championship game, or the
That's a
tight
good
win
point.
and then the blowout, because they could come back
You
and say,
probably want a tight win blowout.
but they could come back and say,
That's
well,
what I
this
said.
team already beat that team
Yeah,
last
I
week,
could
so it's
see him
not
say
as
that.
impressive that they blew them out the
I
second
could see him
time.
say that, and I could see it be too little, too late.
Well, I think
Not
2
to
blowouts
mention-
would be real bad.
Well, obvious would you think it'd be bad?
I think it'd be bad.
good.
Spectacular.
No, I think it'd be
I
spectacular.
don't, because I think they would just undervalue Oklahoma State as a
That's
team.
true. They would drop them. They
Maybe.
would drop them 5 or 6 spots for the first blowout, and then drop them even more for the second blowout, hurting your strength of schedule, and using that as saying, "Oh,
Maybe.
you
They just
weren't that
really
good.
didn't do what they needed to." You know,
I think that's too clever by half. The idea that you want to win, you want to squeak it out because you want the playoff committee to
Right.
think that opponent's good. They've already signaled they think this opponent's good. If they're going to use that against you, they're going to use anything against you.
I agree.
So I do think, though, that it would be better in the scenario from the perspective of the playoff committee to win big and then have your squeaker, because otherwise it's too little, too late, and they don't. You barely beat them, and they don't move you up very much, and then you can't make that leap,
The final jump.
the final jump.
Yeah.
Whereas if you get, and then you can, I don't know.
Because you get the extra boost of being the conference champion
Already.
at the very end.
Yeah.
That even if you squeak that game out by 3, you beat them by 21 the week before,
Mm-hmm.
and you've already impressed them to move up. But
Yeah, we're going to be
it's probably all inconsequential.
laughing
to
at
begin with.
ourselves when
Yep.
we're looking at 2 straight losses to
Yep.
Oklahoma State.
Exactly. Or 1 loss, and then
And then
stay
our
at
first
home.
non-title game
Ugh.
since the reintroduction of the Big 12 title.
Ugh, how
All right, would
awful.
you rather lose next week
and
or
not
lose in the Big 12 championship game to them?
Next week.
Just not even go?
Yeah, I would say if you were guaranteed to lose one of the 2 games, you'd
Ugh.
rather not go, I think.
That's really hard. I don't know.
Although, what about practices? I guess bowl practices would be the same. You wouldn't have any more practices.
No.
no.
Maybe
It's
same
actually
number.
better for
Actually
recruiting
better
when
for-
you don't make the championship game.
You
Yeah.
can spend time recruiting, and you can spend time getting healthy.
Well, signing day will be
Well,
the week of the Big 12
now,
championship.
then
will
again,
it
if we lose to Oklahoma State, don't play in the Big 12 title, and we're going to some secondary bowl, that's probably not good for us. Or that's pretty bad, and we have to take that into account. versus
Well, it
losing
depends
the
if
Big
they
12
got
title.
in, because you could still be a Sugar Bowl type.
If OSU got into the playoffs,
Right.
but they would have to. They couldn't lose one of the 2 games though.
True.
So they're not going to get in the playoffs. So that scenario doesn't work.
Oh God, I don't know.
I think I'd rather win. I don't know.
I don't know.
I guess lose in Stillwater than not have to bother with the Big 12 title.
I think no matter what, losing a title game hurts worse.
Yeah.
I think you're probably.
I don't
right.
know. So you ever
Fortunately,
lost
I
a Big
haven't
12
had
title?
a lot of those
I guess we lost
experiences.
one Big 12
Kansas
title in
State.
We lost one, 2003.
2003.
And let me tell you, that hurt. That
Yeah.
hurt bad.
Although
That-
it didn't affect the team's
that-
chance to get into the title.
That
national
hurt
championship
bad
game.
because it,
Might have hurt their confidence, though.
yeah, it might have hurt their confidence.
Well, it
it
definitely
hurt.
hurt Jason White's wrist.
Well, it hurt me emotionally because I felt like we should have won that game. We were much better
35-7
than them.
or something, wasn't it?
So that really disappointed
Yeah.
me. This wouldn't disappoint me as much because
Darren
I
Sproles.
know both of these opponents, Baylor or Oklahoma State, hypothetically, are teams that can beat us.
Yeah.
I kind of want to say, which is really weird, can I choose a different option?
Yeah,
And that
we're
is,
in a hypothetical world right now.
Baylor loses tonight, and granted, assuming I'm in a bad scenario land, lose, and Oklahoma State goes to the playoff, and we get a representative there. I'd feel better about that.
No thanks.
You don't want that to happen.
Nope. I do not.
No, because I think
I don't ever want
what would
the Aggies
happen to
feel
us, I think Oklahoma State would mess
Fair.
around and win a playoff game. And
And they'd
they'd
rub
be
that
one
in
over our
forever.
head.
All right,
Seriously.
I'm with
No,
you.
seriously.
I'm with you.
I'd
Screw
kill
them.
myself. It'd be terrible.
We'd have to always hear about it. Like, hey, wow, you guys get there and you embarrass the whole conference, and we finally get there, and here we are playing the national championship. Look at there.
True. That'd be hard. That'd be bad. Boy, this is just degrees of losing.
Yep.
It's the Degrees of Losing podcast. Well, I think that's going to round it out for us. Anything else to cover? I don't know if we're gonna. We aren't going to do a midweek pod because we're going to do a Friday pod.
Yeah.
And
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy
Predictions.
happy
Thanksgiving,
Thanksgiving.
everybody, and we will see you.
Well, we gotta pick then. We gotta pick the game.
Oh,
Find it on Twitter.
yeah. Find the picks on Twitter.
All
Give
right.
us a chance to put our
2
mathematicians
homers and a realist.
to it, and tell that post game where we're celebrating. And if you'd come over and do the game, we could do it directly after the game.
We could.
And
We will.
until that time, Boomer Sooner.
Boomer
Sooner.
Sooner.